In this video here, what we're going to be looking at and what we're aiming to do is actually go through and do all of our guitars together. Now again, with everything, have a listen to it. See how it's sitting with everything else. This guitar to me, they can move around dynamically. It is starting to get to the point where I'm compressing everything. You don't always need to, or if you do, you don't need to put much on, particularly acoustic guitar. We'll hear. It actually has quite a large effect on the acoustic guitar. With having some, but I'm just going to really dial it back, just maybe 2.5 at the most. Very dynamic because we're getting those stabs on those notes. Now, we don't want to flatten it off completely, but we don't want it to be leaping up, and what that'll do is actually start to create peaks on the master fader. So just finding a balance there. So what I'm looking at again is that we're getting those reductions, but we're not affecting the sound too much. We're just getting a bit of a balance there. Let's have a look at our electric guitar. I've put some on the electric guitar as well. Again, I don't want to do too much, and the reason is that, in the most part, electric guitars, because of the qualities of the speaker that they're recorded on, have a level of compression taking place in that already. So we don't want to overdo that. Again, all we're thinking about is just slightly reducing that dynamic range to help us control it and to make sure that these are working well together. Let's have a listen to these two together. By doing that compression as well, if a guitar is feeling, I'll say, a little bit tinny or lacking that lower end, a bit of compression can sometimes help to just boost those bass frequencies before we even go to looking at the EQ, and do it in a way that is a bit more natural and actually reflects the qualities of the instrument itself. So I'm quite happy with those. They're sitting nicely in the mix. Again, we've got that space that's taking place here, which is helping them to feel like they are not competing with each other to the sides. Let's have a listen to the vocal. When there's a hold on you, look out. What we'll notice is that EQ-wise, we are going to find that our vocals and guitars are usually, as I was saying before, the instruments that are competing. So I'm just going to go back to what we've done. So we did put a little boost around there, but I'm thinking that perhaps what we'll do is just sculpt out this area around the 1 kilohertz in each of these. I'm going to do the same thing. You'll just see it's a bit of a practice I've got into. We don't need these lower frequencies, so let's just get rid of those and just do a little reduction here around that range, what we're just keeping in mind is, again, we just want to make sure that there's room. Now, if I hold down, make sure you get the right button, hold down Option and drag that across, I now have that on both of my channels. You're almost strangled blue, drawn like a raggedy heart. Okay, so we've got those, don't need to do too much with them. Something that you can do, we've obviously got the reverbs there. Just having a look at this electric guitar, what happens, for instance, if we send it to bus 2, which is our delay. So if I go to bus 2, it gives it a different little, and again, this is what we call a creative effect, because it's not necessarily one that needs to be done, but it's one that we're choosing to make. When there's a hold on you, look out, you're almost strangled blue, drawn like a... So as you can see, remember to actually turn the effect on. A number of times that happens, and you're sort of like, I can't hear any change. Make sure it's on. So with this, we can hear there's a little bit of a delay on there now. So with those stabs, that delay is really accentuated. So if we put these two together, And that is a creative effect. So it's not something that we have to do to make it sound better, but it's something that we're choosing to do within that. I actually quite like that. I'm just going to leave it at the moment and see if that works as we go on. Now let's add in our slide guitar. I'm just going to actually move where we're working at in the song to somewhere where we can definitely have more of the slide guitar. Change how much sense the delay there. That slide guitar for me is not really sitting anywhere in the mix, so let's do a couple of things to bring that up. Again, I like the delay on guitars rather than the reverb. I feel like it's a bit easier to control. The other thing that we can do with our delay over here is actually just think about where it's sitting. We can pan that delay. So just again, just going to put a little bit of light compression on there just to keep it tamed. There we go. It's actually not too bad. If we ever look at this overall, it is reasonably consistent. So again, I'm not going to do too much with this. I'm just going to put that on there. It'll be doing a little bit in the background, but it's just helping it the overall sound. Now, if this is the solo section in the song, the other thing that you can do, I'm not going to do it now, I'm just going to hit X, get rid of that, is if you push A, it gives us automation, and so what we can actually do is change the volume to just adjust that up slightly. Again, try to avoid making large changes in automation and just be very careful with automation. It can do strange things at times. But essentially, when we get to this point in the song on the slide guitar, I can click on here to make a point, make 2 points on either side of it, and then we can just move that middle section up slightly. It doesn't, in most instances when you do this, don't make large changes like that. It's quite a minimal change. It's just a small, subtle. We don't want the guitar suddenly leaping out at us. So I'm just going to push A to hide the automation, hit X to bring back our mixer. And we'll see that the fader actually, if I go back a little bit further, the fader actually adjusts, so the automation is moving that fader for us. So our guitars are sounding not too bad. Now the only thing I would say now is we're going to be careful with that, because each time we move this fader and decide that maybe we want the slide guitar a little bit lower, it's going to fight us and keep going back, because we've told it at that point that is the level that we want it at. So be very, very careful about that. Our next video, we're going to put it all together and see how it sounds.